Did you know that European citizenship is still possible with only a short stay in Europe? Yes, I'm here right now with one of the major stars that set up the Golden Visa in Portugal and is now pioneering Italy. Michael, can you present yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. So I've been in this golden visa space literally since day one when I was in consulting from 2012, getting involved in golden visa funds since 2017, and just seeing some opportunities and flow in the market. I've been looking at Italy a lot more closely lately. So in my career, I've completed the sort of full circle you'd like to see in this space, which would be your consulting aspect, your fund management, as well as capital raising.
So, Michael, we've heard a lot about Golden Visa funds and we've heard about it stopping in Portugal for real estate. Can you tell us a bit about why it's not stopping in Portugal?
So in Portugal, very clearly, real estate's been removed from the table, whether direct investment or through funds. But there are still a lot of other good options out there. Portugal has a lot of other attractive investment opportunities, from renewable energy to hospitality to healthcare, and people can still qualify for the Portuguese Golden Visa program through those avenues.
Now, this Portuguese Golden Visa program, how much do you need to put in and what is it that you are offering?
So your headline is 500,000 euros, and that could be into one or multiple funds, so long as you reach that base amount. We looked at things a bit differently. There's a lot of funds doing the same thing. And something I've learned in this whole golden visa journey I've been on is that most investors want to diversify. They're looking at going into two or three funds. So we thought, well, let's bring to market the first, as far as I'm aware, only co-investment fund in Portugal that takes investors directly to traditionally winning areas of the Portuguese economy, where we're able to invest side by side with other independent fund managers that have the best track record in that space.
And how much would you be expected to return in this type of fund and what are the lockup periods?
So generally speaking, these are closed-end funds, so you do need to see out the full term. They don't have that sort of liquidity that an equities fund would have. Golden visa investors need to be cognizant that they're in here for about a 7-year journey. Okay, you need to hold the visa for 5 years, and thankfully that now counts from the date of application, no longer from the date of approval. Thereafter, you're able to apply for citizenship, assuming that you've committed the minimum requirements of 7 days a year on average in Portugal and got an A2 working knowledge of the language. And issuing the passports taking a year and a half to 2 years. Okay. And during that time, you need to hold valid residency title in Portugal. So conservatively, 7-year journey, 8 years gives everyone a fair chance of getting in and getting out, but also the fund manager that we work with to run the fund efficiently and that they've got good investment runway to work with as well.
You considered another jurisdiction, and that was Italy. Tell us a bit about that and
Mm.
how you came to that decision and why.
Italy is clearly a wonderful country, as is Portugal, and we've been privileged, to be living here. Oh, right. um, and Italy is just such a draw card and a strong brand. It offers such a great lifestyle. It offers good tax incentives, and their golden visa program is interesting, especially for those that all they're looking for is the right to live, work, study in an amazing country should they need to. Okay. And the Italian Golden Visa does give people access to that. Or if they're just happy getting a, a travel document, a document of convenience that gives them Schengen travel and the right to stay 90 days and every 180 days in the Schengen space. A lot of people that look at these sort of programs are legally not allowed to hold two passports. Okay, so for them, if they'll never make the step up to a passport, it actually makes a bit more sense going for Italy as opposed to Portugal, because you're looking at a 60 to 90-day processing time as opposed to 2 years.
And tell us a bit about the wealth taxation advantages of Italy as well, if you're applying for a visa and
Mm.
residing in Italy.
Yeah, so I think Italy is becoming increasingly a good draw card for high net worth families. When I was in international tax planning, it really was about balancing tax benefit with lifestyle. A lot of people move to places in the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man, Malta, Monaco, don't last too long. At least the families don't settle because it doesn't have that lifestyle component. Italy clearly has bucket loads of that. But at the same time, you're able to negotiate and put in place a flat tax of around 200,000 euros a year, which for a lot of non-DOMs leaving London at the moment is clearly a very attractive option.
That sounds pretty amazing. Can you tell us a bit about the company in itself and the advantages of investing into this?
So you get an Italian golden visa by putting 500,000 euros into an Italian business that's been operating for more than a year. And that could be as simple as going to a listed company, Ferrari, and buying 500,000 euros worth of shares. But the downside for an investor is you clearly get no diversification. So what we've created and acquired is an audited private investment company that's been functioning for over a year. Investors come in as shareholders in that structure, a 500,000 euro investment. And essentially from there, the company will invest into a portfolio of 15 to 20 blue chip Italian companies. I mean, these are all names you're familiar with: Ferrari, Campari, Brembo, DeLonghi, etc.
And what returns are we looking at having if I'm an investor?
So when we ran the back testing on this portfolio, well, firstly, we like the fact that these are legacy companies for legacy investment. And that doesn't get spoken about enough, that the investment you're making in a golden visa, it's pretty special in that it's something that's going to positively impact on the lives of unborn grandchildren, and that are very often, especially if you make the step up to a passport, this is all transferable. So we looked at legacy companies that have been around for generations. The back testing indicated, over a long-term investment, you're looking at average annual returns of low double digits.
Wow, that sounds very impressive. Can you outline a bit of the differences between both
Mm.
both the Portuguese and the Italian, some advantages and disadvantages?
So I think what makes the Portuguese golden visa golden is that 7 day a year staying requirement. The fact that by going to Portugal for a vacation or holiday every year, you can walk out with citizenship is truly special. Italy, though, is a bit more of a time commitment. If all you're looking for is the visa, then it's great. You only have to go there for 1 day every 3 years. However, if you want to make the step up to permanent residency or a passport, it's more similar to the Spanish program. There's a time commitment. You've got to pay taxes there. You've got to, in the second set of 5 years, the first set is a bit more flexible, but the second set of 5 years, in that 10-year period, you essentially have to live there 183 days a year. So at that stage, it's more of a plan A than a plan B. Portugal gives people boundless optionality. It's a plan A or a plan B. It's very flexible. And at the end of the day, a European passport's a European passport, whether it's Portugal or Italy. So if people want Italy, if they're not allowed a second passport and they want speed, Italy's the right option. If the end game is a European passport, then definitely it's all about Portugal.
Now, if I'm correct, you can do both. Explain to me how that's possible.
So in theory, you're able to make an investment into an Italian company that's been operating for over a year, which could then finance a Portuguese single shareholder company that invests into a Portuguese qualifying fund. So you'd get the Italian golden visa, while simultaneously, through the Portuguese investments, getting a Portuguese golden visa. At which stage, when the Portuguese one is issued, you could relinquish the Italian one. So you don't have that waiting period up front. You're getting something within 60 days. So you got your Schengen travel sorted, a place to go to, and an emergency. And then as soon as Portugal kicks in and say year 2, 2.5, you could disinvest out of one and just maintain the other.
What would be your recommendations for investors at this stage for either or both?
If you're up for it and in the privileged position to do so, if you're able to get both, why not? Okay. It's your biggest weakness in Portugal is the waiting time up front. And this sort of helps to mitigate a lot of that. But as I was saying earlier, Portuguese passport is a European passport. It's as valuable as an Italian passport. So if it is a priority, one or the other, Portugal. But if you're able to do both, there'd be a bit of a premium because of the structuring charges. Possibly consider both.
And the high returns for Italy as well. So it's always interesting to be able to know that you're making nice returns on your investments.
Yeah, and it's such a well-established portfolio with such well-established companies. There's liquidity within it as well. So if people have a change of heart, they are able to get out.
What is the lockup period for the Italian company?
Well, in Italy, if you don't do the time, you need to keep it ongoing. So you need to renew the visa every 3 years. So it potentially could be indefinite. But if you meet the requirements at the end of year 5, when you get issued permanent residency, you'd be able to relinquish the investment.
Now, tell us a little bit about your other fund, which I'm very intrigued about, classic cars. Can you give me a bit of information about that? Because that is very cool.
Yeah, so classic cars, the fund is called Wheels. It's managed by Fundbox. We went for cars because, well, firstly, it's a Portuguese option. Okay, so we're talking about the Portuguese golden visa. People in the golden visa space were used to tangible assets. It was all about real estate. So we thought, well, what would be a good alternatives? And cars really stood out for a few reasons. Number one, they're very liquid. You'll sell a car easier than an apartment. They're correlated to the Portuguese economy. So you're completely independent of the ebbs and flows and peaks and troughs of the Portuguese economy. What happens here will not impact on the performance of that fund. It's an international asset. And if you looked at the data, classic cars have been one of the top performing alternatives of the last 10 years, outperforming watches, wine, art, handbags, even gold. Gold's, I think, done around 165% growth over 10 years. Cars did about around 185% growth. As someone looking at funds, I appreciate the simplicity of it. The fact that your exit strategy is pretty liquid and fluid, it's phased out. You're not waiting for big exit events. It's as simple as buying well today, evaluating every 6 months, and as soon as there's enough upside, selling the car.
Sounds pretty good. Sounds amazing. Just very quickly, if I'm an investor, what steps would I have to take if I'm doing the Portuguese, and what steps for the Italian? Could you walk me through a little bit of the process and the legal side of what I need to do if I don't know? And
Yeah.
I have no idea. I've come from America and I've arrived and I want a visa. Walk me through some simple steps.
The first thing you'll always need in Portugal, at least, is a tax number, and who will get you that is a lawyer. So identify a lawyer through references or through one of us on who'd be reliable, who's really done this a lot. With that tax number, you'd always need a Portuguese bank account. You're looking at a month, 2 months for that to open, and during that time, it's a good time to start shopping around for your preferred investment. Any investment you choose in Portugal, being in the hands of a regulated, licensed, and independent fund manager, you'd have to go through an onboarding KYC process. Any fund manager has to comply with Portuguese and EU anti-money laundering regulations. So the onboarding process is in line with the bank account opening pretty much. As soon as that account is open, you'd need to capitalize it from an offshore account and from there into your chosen investment. Within a matter of a day of that happening, you'd be issued an investment certificate, which is then a central document to your golden visa application. Italy is a bit of a different process, and what people appreciate about it is you actually get approved first before you spend the money. So you almost communicate your intention to the authorities that you're going to make this investment into this company. The structure that we've set up in Italy already has a positive legal opinion, as well as confirmation of the authorities that it qualifies. The authorities then issue you a 2-year visa to come through to Italy to make the investment. So you get approved first, and then you come through to Italy and you spend the money or invest the money on.
So your second fund is very different from the first fund. Can you explain a little bit about the differences of them both and how they correlate together?
Yeah, they're almost such polar opposites that they complement each other. Classic cars, clearly very alternative, very focused. Our flagship fund is Panorama, and it's a co-investment fund. It's the first of its kind in Portugal, in that in all my golden visa experience, very clearly investors want to diversify into 2 or 3 investment opportunities. And essentially a co-investment fund does that for you, but through one convenient source. So you're getting a lot of diversification and peace of mind that any investment going through the fund is checked twice by the sourcing fund manager that we co-invest with, as well as our own fund manager, which in this case is Fundbox, who have full fiduciary responsibility for the structure, who will double check the numbers and double check that it's not putting anyone's golden visa at risk. So it's a big play on diversification.
Lastly, why is it a good time now to invest?
So I think a golden visa investment is becoming an asset class in its own right and should be judged as such in terms of team, track record, diversification. People need to be aware that they're doing this for a visa. Returns, of course, are important. Capital preservation is important. But don't look at anything that's going to put your golden visa at risk. And your golden visa opportunity could be gone tomorrow. These programs are fickle by nature. Okay, they can be here today, gone tomorrow, which is also part of the reason why as a business we've diversified into Italy. And as I touched on earlier, this legacy opportunity to diversify your wealth, but also secure future generations European access and all the benefits that offers, is completely unique and one of a kind. At the moment,
valid for yourself and your family as well.
Correct, absolutely. So qualifying investor can attach a spouse, dependent children, dependent parents as well. So it is a very impactful investment, but it could actually be gone quite quickly. You never quite know when these programs will either be removed or need to be evolved, and that governments bring them into place, raise a certain amount of capital. It's done its job. Let's either raise the bar or remove it completely. So while you can do it, absolutely.
So once I've invested, I'm ensured that I'm not going to have anything happen to my investment by that stage. I will be assured a golden visa if I put that investment down, correct?
In principle, yes. Okay. The risk would be if people choose an investment that presents itself as a scheme, and that would be some guidance I'd give. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. These products will get reviewed. Okay, and that's going to happen in 2-3 years' time when the visa is eventually approved. So you really don't want to be in a position where you've chosen an option, you've made an investment, and in 2-3 years' time, it's disqualified as eligible. And at that stage, there is no golden visa program that you could go into another fund. Okay, but if you've made the right investment, you're going through reputable lawyers, you've gone through the steps, your criminal background checks are correct, and all those sorts of things you'd expect, you're in pretty safe hands.
Amazing. Michael, thank you very much. We're very privileged to be here
Thank
with
you.
you. So really, this is our pioneer golden visa specialist, and he set up the first fund. So it's really lovely to be here with you today. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
lovely taking part in this. Thank you.